time to talk. You're listening to The Richard Eads Show on KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe. Streaming on SantaFe.com. Call 424-4550.
Just leave a message, maybe I'll call. Lucky I'm sane after all I've been through.
All right, this is a cool story. I saw it in the paper today, and I thought, man, these guys are cool. This is like one of these dreams come true. It's two gentlemen, Greg Kolb and Doug Asher, and they're from Albuquerque. We're going to find out about their story. They basically got in a canoe up at Eagle's Nest up near Angel Fire, and they didn't get out of the canoe. That's the story I'm sticking to, and until they got to New Orleans. And we have on the line with us Greg Kolb. Greg, good morning.
Good morning, Richard.
Now, I'm probably overstating that a little bit. You probably got out of the canoe once or twice, right?
Oh, yeah. Many times over 21 years.
This went on forever, but you guys ended up down on the Mississippi, right?
Yes, we did. We ended up across the wharf from New Orleans.
So you guys did this, in segments. Obviously, took you 21 years, but tell us why. I mean, where did you guys come up with this?
Okay, well, the whole thing started back in 1992. I love to read maps, and I just love canoeing as well. And was studying a map in New Mexico, up near my buddy's condo in Angel Fire. He had a condo in Angel Fire,
okay.
And I happened to notice that the Cimarron River was coming out of Eagle Nest Lake,
right?
And I thought, well, maybe we can go canoeing that someday, just for fun, because my buddy lives up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started following it. And I had my Rand McNally out, and I started going from one page to the next, and I discovered that this is one of the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi. And I couldn't believe it, and I thought, gee, not many New Mexicans know this. And so I mentioned this to my buddy one day, the guy that lives at Angel Fire, Doug Asher, and he immediately told me, well, we got a canoe to New Orleans. And I go, what?
How drunk were you guys?
We had a few. Yes, we had.
Okay.
And so that's how it all really started. And my buddy, Doug, is very goal-oriented. And so he says, well, we just have to do this. And so that's how it really began.
All right. So did you actually start out in the lake?
Yes, we did. We launched in the lake, paddled across the lake.
In 1992.
Kids, we got in 1992. And then we put in below the dam, and people that know the Cimarron River know that it's really just a little creek.
Right.
And, we put some major gashes in our canoe, hitting all the rocks. And the problem with the whole thing is, everybody's heard about people paddling canoes from Minnesota, the other headwater, the other major headwater of the Mississippi, to New Orleans, but nobody's ever done it from New Mexico. So that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for why nobody's done it, because there is so little water. Right. As you know, the Southwest is so dry, and then every drop of water on these rivers is accounted for by water masters at various dams.
Right.
Yeah, there was no real continuous water path.
Right.
And so we had to basically wait for flash floods and dam releases to do this thing. So that's why it took 21 years.
Right.
There were sections where we waited for years to wait for water to flow.
Really?
Yes.
All right, so you guys would be paddling along, doop-de-doo, and you're wearing did you both wear Davy Crockett hats? No.
Sort of.
Probably. So you guys are paddling along. How often did you just go, oh, shoot, there's no water, or there's such a trickle it's not going to float a canoe, and you just got to pull out?
Yeah, well, we tried to do a little research before we put in. Back in the early days, back in 92, there was no internet.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It was difficult to find out what the flows were.
No GPS.
And, we had to make phone calls and that sort of thing to recordings, and then we had to be willing to leave on a moment's notice. As soon as we heard there was flow, we were packing up within 24 hours, and we're gone. Okay.
What do you do Greg? What do you do for a living?
I'm now retired from Sandia Laboratories. I worked in solar power out there, so I was listening to your previous talkers.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But
cool.
Anyway,
So,
I retired a few years ago.
but that allowed you working at San Diego Labs. That allowed you, like you said, on a moment's notice.
Well, we have a pretty good vacation benefit out there. We did at the time anyway.
Right.
So I did have time to take off, but I did have to get back.
And what did Doug do? Did he live full time up in Angel Fire?
No, we're both from Albuquerque. He had a condo up there.
Right. What did he do for a living?
He works in real estate. He's a realtor.
All right. So anyway, that was that was kind of the model. You guys were having to make phone calls, how much water you got, when you're going to release from the dam, what's the outlook, probably following storms as well, right?
Right. That's right. And even with that, there was times, one of the most challenging sections as far as water, because it was really lack of water that was the challenge, was, Ute Lake in eastern New Mexico, there near Logan.
Yeah.
They will release when the water level gets up within 3 feet of the spillway. But they only release like 300 CFS, which any boater knows isn't much. And then it went across the desert into the panhandle of Texas for over 100 miles. And we were out in the middle of nowhere. And the water, like you said, just started seeping into the sand.
Yeah.
And, we were basically stuck. And I thought we were going to have to walk out of there. And we were kind of depressed at the thought of having to quit.
Yeah.
And that night, on the weather report, we had heard there were thunderstorms out of the Oklahoma coming our way, and there was a huge cloudburst that night and created a flash flood. And we were able then the next day to ride that thing all the way to Boys Ranch, Texas, which is on the Canadian River.
All right, but that's the other extreme. I mean, one extreme is no water, so you have to pull out. Flash flood. Now you guys are surfing along, 15 knots. I mean, did that get a little hairy too?
It got a little leery because a dry riverbed that now becomes full has all sorts of things floating in it.
Lots of flotsam and
right,
lots
of
lots
cow
of logs,
patties and all sorts of nice things.
animals.
Yeah, dead animals.
Yeah.
You name it.
How many canoes did you go through?
Well, we did it in 2 canoes. We destroyed the first one. We were going through the Canadian Canyon.
Was it aluminum or wood?
These were high-tech, old-town canoes, cross-length 3, nearly indestructible. But we managed to destroy one going down the Canadian Canyon, which is like the Grand Canyon in New Mexico, between Roy and Wagon Mound. We wrapped a boat, destroyed it, could not get it off the rock. And then a couple of weeks later, we were out again and wrapped another boat. We're able to get it off by a miracle.
And then patched it up.
That boat was damaged, and we were able to take that one then all the way to New Orleans 15, 16 years later. So it did make it. So it was 2 boats.
What's the name of the one that made it?
NM to NO2. NM to NO1 is no longer with us.
But that's the name of the canoe?
Right, NM to, yeah.
Shouldn't it have a woman's name or, a cool name of some kind?
Well, no, that was, we probably should have been more creative there.
All right, so for people that are going, what the heck are they talking about? The map, it's in the paper. It's pretty cool. 1992, Eagles Nest Lake. 93, boom, ba-doo, we're going down the river. All right, so you get over to the Canadian River. Like you said, you go through that Grand Canyon part of it where you lost number 1. Start off with number 2. But now you have to go all the way across the panhandle of Texas. So it's not like driving, out I-40 or I-25, I-40 through Oklahoma City. But, that's kind of the route you guys took, right? All the way across the panhandle. You actually get real close to Oklahoma City, right?
Yes, you do. You actually go right through Norman, which is just below Oklahoma. You go right through Tornado Alley.
Nice.
Which was actually a blessing for us because we needed water, and when there's tornadoes, there's water.
All right. So now you guys are going. You guys hit. Let's see. You are hitting Oklahoma by about 2001.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but you have to go all the way across Oklahoma. You get all the way across Oklahoma by about 2009. Then you have to go all the way across Arkansas before you finally bump into the mighty Mississippi, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Man, oh, man. Any lakes along here?
Yeah, some huge lakes. We, of course, New Mexicans know Conscious Lake and Ute Lake.
Right.
And So after you go through the Canadian Canyon, you come into Conscious Lake. We paddled that, and that was our first major plug of the journey, because when we got there, we met the water master who's patrolling the dam, and he says, guys, he says, the water, I never let water out of this dam. Every drop is spoken for. If you want to go below that dam, you better pray for rain and hope the water goes over the dam. Okay, so if you go to the website, you will see actually a video of the water coming over Conscious Dam.
I got to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive just to look at it.
No, he's not the water meanie, but I mean, he's not like the water narc. But I mean, it is a matter of water rights, like you said. Every drop is spoken for.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the water only went over the dam, we heard, in 1965, 1987, and then we show up about 94 hoping that it would go over, and it did. But that was the year we destroyed the canoe, and we were freaked out. We needed to improve our skills, and so we thought, geez, we missed our golden opportunity. But just so happened, if you remember, late 90s were wet years in New Mexico.
Right, unusual.
And in 96, it went over again, and we were there. So we rode that. My son and I actually did that stretch from Conscious to Ute. And it was, traveling a riverbed that rarely flows, and so the river would disappear under growth, and we had to get out of the canoe and pull it through forests that, normally there's normally not water there, so there's no established riverbed. Right. So it was pretty rough going. But we made it. How
much of the motivation was, and then how many times along the way was it's like, we're going back in time. We're like, I said you're the 2015 New Mexico version of Lewis and Clark, but along the trip, were you guys thinking it's like this is what it was like for those early guys, for the Jeremiah Johnsons or the Grizzly, all these early explorers, the people that came across and explored when, there weren't roads and highways and interstate highways. Do you guys feel like pioneers, like frontiersmen?
Definitely. In fact, we called ourselves the New Explorers. And we did call ourselves the modern day Lewis and Clark. And we have a ballad. If you go to the website and read the ebook, which is all online for free for anybody to look at, you'll see those chapters named like that, where we focus on us being the new explorers. Yeah. And we compare ourselves to Lewis and Clark and those folks.
But it's also a test, right? I mean, I've never done anything like what you guys did, but I've been on long ocean voyages where there's been two of us on a 34-foot boat, 90-knot winds and 90-foot seas. You don't know where the end is. You can't get off. There's no bus stop. You got to ride it out. And it's like, it's every second. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can go on. I don't know if the other guy in the boat's going to be there when I wake up from my 1-hour nap in the middle of the night, and it's like, it's a test.
Yeah, we did some stupid things too, where, things could have went south very easily. We could have been killed, and especially right at the end when we were coming into New Orleans, below Baton Rouge, coming to New Orleans, it's very industrial. Above that, the Mississippi's a beautiful river for canoeing. Below Baton Rouge, it's scary for a canoe, and we were coming into the New Orleans wharf.
But were you humming like the Battle of New Orleans when you guys were paddling along there?
Yeah, we had our ballad. We would sing that daily. We had 7 verses, and they're all in there. Okay, but we were coming into New Orleans, and there was one ship after another, and barges. We were trying to get over to Jackson Square, which is over in the French Quarter.
That's no joke there. I mean,
yes,
those
guys,
joke
at all. And
those guys
we
are
pull
doing
off the river, and we just so happened to see the Department of Homeland Security standing there, and they're wondering what we're doing there. And they started warning us about how dangerous it was.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Our families over at Jackson Square saying, "Where are you guys? We're waiting for you." They're going to greet us. It was right during the French Quarter Festival.
Oh, nice.
And Doug gets on the phone, calls his son who's over across the river, says, "Hey, we want you to look around the river and see if there's something coming. We're going to cross the river here, and we're worried that we're going to get run over."
Sure.
And my daughter, who was the first woman to join the journey in that last segment, said, there's no escape route. If we get over there,
that's right,
we're going to be killed.
You're trapped.
Okay? And so we decided to end it there. We later learned we were just inside the city limits. So there was definitely some danger, and luckily my daughter, and we had other things like guardian angels watching after us.
No doubt.
That prevented disaster. We were going down the Arkansas River. There was, water going over all those dams, and we had people warning us about, which way to approach locks to avoid getting swept over. And anyway, yes, there are definitely dangers, and like you said, you're out there, and anything could happen.
Yeah,
it's an adventure.
And you got to the mighty Mississippi, and you're cruising along. You got all the water you need under the keel, if you had a keel. But it's like the ships, man. I mean, you're out in the middle of the ocean from a time when a ship is invisible over the horizon to the time it runs over you is a matter of minutes, not hours,
yes.
because they're doing 40 knots.
Right.
And, they don't see you because you're just
and the barges, Doug was convinced the barges would not get out of the way. We had to, I said, they'll move. And he said, no way.
No. They can't move. They can't move.
Yeah, they can't.
Well,
and they would come up. We would see them coming up the river. That wasn't a problem. But when they would come down the river, just like you said, they're moving really fast.
Yep.
And they could run you right over if you weren't looking over your shoulder.
They never know it.
Nope.
All right, great story. So the website is, if people want to go hear the ballad or watch the videos or, like you said, read the ebook. What is the website?
It's really just an online book. It reads like a real book. It can be read in about 2 hours, with the video clips. You need to look at the clips because they're integrated into the storyline. But, it's NM to NO by Canoe.com.
Hey, I appreciate your time today, Greg. I really, really do. That's a great tale. Really cool.
Okay, Richard.
Great achievement.
All right.
All right.